formulas, like, so the previous thing we talked about functions, so you can look up things. You can look up things. We talked about all the different kinds of functions. So I'll go to an Excel spreadsheet, and I can say sum. Sum is a very good function. We go down to the bottom of this thing and we say equals sum of, and highlight that whole thing, press enter, and it adds up the entire column. Very useful function, adding things up. But you can also imagine that you might want to add up everything, so we could just add up all those numbers, and we might want to add up all those columns. We just copy that formula into all those things, and then it adjusts them for us, and now instead of adding up that, it also adds up that and that. That's kind of the power of Excel, is that it adjusts those formulas for you. It starts off as sum of F2, F25, and then it goes to E2, E25. Magically adjusts those for you. The best thing about Excel. A review last week too. If you put a dollar sign around those things, so F4 is the shortcut for putting dollar signs, that means lock them in place. Do not adjust them when you move them. Dollar sign means anchor. So now when I copy that over, it says, no, I won't adjust it. Now they're all 272763. They're all still pointing to this column because I anchored them. That doesn't make much sense. So the default is to not anchor them. Some cases you need to anchor them. We'll show you those in the tutorial. But no.
If you went back and now, yes, already have.
Yeah.
If you wanted to add more rows of data, will it know to shift?
Very good question. So, Jeanette, if we wanted to add more data, would it know to adjust those totals? Well, let's see. We just stick a number in there. So it should be a number. That'll be better. And did it change it? No, it didn't change it. It's still 763. Why not? Because it still says F2 to F25. Actually, let me undo. So F2 to 22. It still says F2 to F25. It wasn't smart enough to know that number wasn't there. But yeah. The thing is, if we inserted a row, if we put a row in the middle there, and now we go look at that formula. Now it says F2 to F27. It actually moved it down one, and it even included that one when it said, "Oh, you must also want to include this one." So it does do little magic things sometimes. Sometimes it's expected, sometimes it's unexpected. So you want to check things out. But that is what you want. You would want it to add a row in the middle. You would want it to not just go down to there, stop, jump over, and go to there. It would still be the same range. This thing here, that it added that 1, 2, 3 in there, that's kind of unexpected. I didn't think you were going to grow on the bottom as well, but it is trying to be smart. Yeah. So it does adjust for you sometimes. Great. So the formulas are useful. There's some great little formulas. If is a formula, you say equals if. All formulas start with an equal sign, equals if, and you can ask a question. You can say, if this number is greater than 18,000, say big, otherwise little. You notice I put quotes around there because this is a string. It's not a number. We have to treat it as such. And so, no problem. Yeah, there's commas between. Always the arguments of a function are separated by commas. So, yeah. Equals. Oh. If F3 is greater than big, oh, it doesn't like single quotes, it likes double quotes, as opposed to the other languages. Cool. Microsoft. Great, so that's big number. That's a little number. If we copy that to the row above it, what's it going to say? Little. And we can copy it all the way down by double-clicking on that little dot. Big, little, big, little, big, big, little, big. Yeah, so it classifies all these for us. Sometimes it's very useful to classify a whole bunch of things at once. You can say, are they a good friend? Are they male? Are they, do something different if they're male and female? Big, little, big. Great. So if is a way to do it, and so that this thing here, this if F2 is greater than 18,000, that bit, that's called a condition. That's a logical condition. And you can and conditions together. You can or conditions together. You say if F2 is greater than 18,000 and total funding is greater than 20,000. Yeah. But again, Excel is not so good for this. You can do it, but it's just not. It's kind of painful. You have to AND them together with another function. So and if and value comma value, then true, then false. See, this is another function, and functions look a bit funny sometimes. So I'll show you an example of that. If and F2 is greater than 18,000, comma, E2 is less than 200,000. So it takes both of those conditions into play. This condition is for this thing, this condition is for this thing. If they're both true, A and B, something like from a philosophy class, then they're still big. Otherwise, they're not. So, yeah, and it gets a bit hairy. You can have ands and ors and things like that, but it's not the best language for that kind of thing. Yeah. Not is another function. If not something, not text. You could have just said less than, but sometimes you can't do that. So not so useful. We talked about this before, relative and absolute addressing. And you put the dollar sign in front of it, it's a absolute addressing. So this one's more about, this tip is more about vision. You can freeze so we've got this huge data set here, and we go down to the bottom, we can't remember what the name of that column is because we've lost the headers. We can freeze the row at the top. It's under View, Freeze Panes. Ooh, like Canada, cold. Freeze the top row. So that's one reason why it's useful to not put other crap up the top. Always have your labels in the top row. This is using Excel as a database. You want to be consistent. Always have your labels in the top row. Sometimes you'll have your identifier on the right-hand side. You can freeze that as well. We have nothing on the right-hand side in this little data set, but you can freeze that. Split is similar, but you can split it at any spot you want. So we'll split the whole thing, and there it splits it. So this part moves separately from that side, and the bottom part moves separately from the top part. So it's a bit more flexible, but it's also a bit harder to see. Oh, you guys can't see that. Look at this. That's interesting. There should be a gray line in the middle of the screen here that you can't see. It's magic. Now it looks really magic. Yeah. Great. You can hide columns. If you've got some fancy complications, you want to hide them. Let's turn that split off. Let's say you've got some fancy internal complications. You can hide them. Right-click and say hide. They're gone. You can tell they're there because it says AE. You can tell that there's missing columns in there somewhere, but you can't see them. If you lock the spreadsheet now, they can be hidden and no one can have access to them. How do you unhide them? Where's it gone? You highlight the two that are on both sides of it, and then right-click and say unhide. It unhides everything that's in between. So hiding and unhiding, very useful. If you've got a lot of columns full of things you don't care about, you hide them, and often used for calculations, lots of detailed calculations. Security. That is really not using it. Hide, how to unhide. Multiple worksheets. So down here at the bottom, we've got the different worksheets. Because it's in, they can sort of see that there's a few more over here. I'm not quite sure why you can't see them. But anyways, there's all different worksheets there. You can hide worksheets. You can reference things in another worksheet. So, for example, let's say I wanted to go look up this person in that worksheet. I could reference that worksheet in the formula to look it up. You can look up things between worksheets. That's probably the most useful thing that has with formulas. I'll show you an example of that in a minute. Yeah. Insert and delete. You can add new ones. You can delete them. You can hide them. You can change the color of the tabs. Rename them, and even copy and move them around. Yes, so you can reference a cell in one sheet to another. That's what it looks like. That's what the reference looks like. You have the name of the worksheet, an exclamation mark, and a cell. But you can also do it by pointing to it. You don't have to remember that. So yeah, we'll show you that. So let's say we want to add up all these assignment marks, but we don't want to put it in this sheet, we want to put it in another sheet. So we'll create a new sheet, we'll say equals sum, and then we go back to that data. That wasn't quite the right one. One answer. Yeah, there we go. We go back to that data. We highlight the whole column, and so you can see it's building the formula up here. Equals sum. The name of the spreadsheet and the column, close bracket, and you'll see it's up here, but we're actually not looking at it. It's actually in sheet 1, that formula. And when we close the bracket, we press the close bracket and press enter. It takes us back to that sheet, and there it says the sum total is 26. The answer to the universe is 42. Yeah, sum of the answer. And so that's in another sheet. If we go to the other sheet and we delete a bunch of that data, and then we go back to the sheet again, you'll see that the numbers changed because the number of the base data changed. So you can refer things between one sheet and another. Yeah. So sometimes it's useful to figure out what the heck's going on. So we've got this formula there, that one, and we press F2, and it says this formula is based on this and this. This F2, the blue, belongs to that, and this E2 belongs to that. Very useful to figure out, if you've got a big complex formula, to figure out what's going on. How did that happen? How did I get that particular number, big or little? So that's one way to do it. And another way to do it is in this idea of formulas, trace precedence. It says, where does this data come from? And you push it, and it shows you. It puts little arrows on there. It says this is where the data comes from. You can trace the precedence, and you can also trace the dependence. Where does this data go to? Very useful for figuring out what's going on. And why did I get this number here? Yeah. Hopefully, you will never have to do that because you'll not be doing big formulas in Excel. And then. Circular references. That's when a precedent is on itself. So, for example, let's say I've got 3 numbers here, 1, 2, 3. What's the sum of those 3 numbers? See if you can do it faster than Excel. What's it going to say? 6. Excellent. good. So now that's the sum of those three cells, F2, H6 to H8, you can see it's blue there. What happens if we wanted to say, what's the sum of not just those three cells, but all the way down to H10? What would that number be? What's the sum of that number, and that number? 12, yeah, you'd think so. But then it gets to 12, and it says, you can't because it adds 6 on. It's a circular reference. You can't say what's 1 plus 1 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2. Yeah, circular. It gets confused. So it says circular. I don't know. So it just says Matt too hard. It gives you an error message, and it's a circular reference. That's what that error message said. You can't refer to yourself when you're doing a calculation. Yeah. Yeah. So,
Going back in.
Yeah. How do you fix it? Oh, make it not be a circular reference. Don't refer to yourself. It's kind of it's a logical thinking problem. You're saying what's 1 plus the sum of 1 plus 1. Well, but then you can't. It just keeps going around and around and around. You can't. Yeah, it's just it just means you haven't thought through your problem very well. How do you think it? How do you fix it? Have a nap and then come back, and it'll be better because you'll know you'll have fixed your thinking. Yeah, naps are good. Yeah. Oh, okay, yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's true. We could have said what's 1 plus 2 plus 3, and then F2. So that's what's that one plus that one. So that's 6. So now we could say equals sum of those 4, because that's not a circular reference. So it's just I'm just adding those 3. It doesn't really make much sense because you're adding in the 1 plus 2 plus 3 twice, and so you might as well just multiply by 2 or something. You wouldn't really generally do stuff like that. Yeah. Jane, were you going to say something?
Oh,
Yeah, great. Good. Okay. Well, that was